Welcome, my name is Lukian Eli and this is your week in a brief. We start off on a somber mode even as Kenyans continue counting losses of lives and properties worth millions thanks to the ongoing floods that have caused havoc across the country. Here is Obed Riku with that report.
It was a sigh of relief after President William Ruto directed the indefinite postponement of schools reopening due to the ongoing ravaging floods that have left the country in total despair.
The Ministry of Education is directed to postpone the dates of reopening of all schools in the country for the second term until further notice. Members of Parliament are requested to reorganize the CDF allocations to prioritize reconstruction of school infrastructure that has been damaged as a result of the floods ravaging the country.
This follows the earlier late-night directive issued by Ministry of Education CS Ezekiel Machogu on 29th of April 2024, stating that school reopening would be delayed by a week to 6th May 2024. In his address to the nation from the State House, Nairobi, President Ruto acknowledged that the devastating floods as at Friday had claimed more than 210 lives, caused injuries to many, and wreaked havoc on property, infrastructure, and livelihoods.
Persistent torrential rain has unleashed devastating floods, which have claimed 210 lives as of today. It has also caused injuries to many more and wreaked havoc on property, infrastructure, and livelihoods.
Equally, the President has directed the National Treasury to prioritize disbursement of funds to counties, provide resources to the National Government Constituency Development Fund, NGCDF, and MPs to reconstruct schools infrastructure that has been destroyed, and provide resources for the reconstruction of roads, bridges, and other transport infrastructure that have been affected by the floods.
Treasury has been mobilized to, number one, prioritize disbursements to counties to make sure that counties have the necessary resources to deploy intervention to manage this crisis. Number two, we have also directed Treasury to provide resources to our NGCDF and members of Parliament to prioritize the reconstruction of school infrastructure that has been destroyed by the floods.
Meanwhile, it's now 53 days since doctors went on national strike in protest of intern salaries and remuneration, as well as better working conditions, among other issues. However, the President, in his address to the nation, fails to respond to this sensitive matter by sidestepping the question on the impending health crisis occasioned by the 14th March doctors' strike.
There shall be no vacuum in power, even as President William Ruto last week promoted Lieutenant Colonel Charles KAHARIRI to the level of General. General KAHARIRI now is the new appointed CDF Kenya Defense Forces, taking over from former General Francis Ogola, who perished in a chopper accident in the North Rift region. Equally, Major Fatuma Gaiti Ahmed was promoted to the rank of Kenya Air Force Commander, making her the first ever female in the history of Kenya Defense Forces to ever acquire such a decorated level. Here is Obezoriku with that report.
In matters defense, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Mario KAHARIRI was promoted to the rank of General and appointed Chief of Defense Forces. General KAHARIRI effectively replaces the late CDF General Francis Ogola, who died in a chopper crash last month while on duty in the bandit-prone North Rift region. Major Fatuma Gaiti Ahmed was promoted to the rank of Kenya Air Force Commander. Gaiti makes history as the first highest-ranking female military officer in the Republic of Kenya. Kenya has made significant milestones in ensuring gender and professional equality in the military service since the inception of the Women's Service Corps in 1971, which would later be disbanded in 1999. The service was deemed repressive and was felt that women were limited to the roles of nurses, cooks, and secretaries and were not allowed to get married. The WSC serving women were posted to various organs in the Kenya Army, Kenya Air Force, and Kenya Navy. The appointment of women to the top ranks of the military serves as a testament of the modernization and adaptation of the KDF in keeping with the modern times, and hopefully this also translates translates to how they go about doing their communications to the general public.
Now, let's take a break, and as we come back, we'll be looking in matters economy as we bring in Stella Soke to give us the numbers, matters inflation, domestic borrowing, and other stories in a moment.
With a lot going on in the country, the budget season is also here with us, and the week brought a flurry of activity surrounding exchequer matters as the Treasury released a series of crucial documents. So among these were the budget estimates for the fiscal year 2024-2025, together with the program-based budget, and the Treasury also released the second supplementary budget for the current fiscal year, that is fiscal year 2023-2024. On the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget estimates, expenditure has gone up by 83 billion, where recurrent and CFX expenditure is projected to slightly go up from 2.76 trillion to 2.78 trillion in the next fiscal year. On the other hand, development and net lending expenditure is expected to rise by 38 billion to 687 billion from the current 649 billion. However, attention is drawn to the projected increase in revenues from the current 2.9 trillion in fiscal year 23-24 to 3.4 trillion in fiscal year 2024-2025. So this is expected to lower the budget deficit to around 514 billion, and this is equivalent to 2.9% of GDP. So the figure is declining from 908 billion in the current fiscal year, equivalent to 5.6% of GDP. As such, the total financing is projected to reduce by 40.5% to 566 billion in the next fiscal year from the 951 billion in the current fiscal year in the second supplementary budget. So in my view, the revenue growth projection is quite ambitious, given that we do not expect the KRA to meet the current fiscal year's revenue targets. So this makes the targets for the next fiscal year increase even higher. In that case, we are looking at significant adjustments in the fiscal year 2024-2025 supplementary budgets, or even at significant tax adjustments in the incoming Finance Bill 2024, which will be aimed at ramping up revenues. With regards to domestic borrowing, we saw a downward revision of the current fiscal year's net domestic borrowing target, and currently, the government is 18% ahead of the prorated borrowing target, with a net borrowing position of around 415 billion. So the current position surpasses the net borrowing target for the current fiscal year that has been provided for in the second supplementary budget of 407 billion, even as we still have 2 months to go to the completion of the fiscal year. So what we make of this is that it's either the government is not planning to borrow any extra amount outside the 185 billion May and June maturities, or the government is willfully blind to the fact that it has already surpassed the estimates in the second supplementary budget.
And that was it from Stella's Day. See you next week for yet another exciting episode of Your Week in Brief. My name is Lekuyani Eli on behalf of all the team. See you when you see us.